Marsh, we are recording this on the road as we are coming back home after a weekend full of conference championship action, conference championships in which home teams did not fare all that well, finishing below 500, only saved because of a couple wins here on Sunday. We are just wrapping up after UCLA captured the conference title over Utah in the Pac-12. We're going to talk that. We're going to talk a little bit first round as the Los Angeles Clippers get eliminated in stunning, if you're a Denver fan, fashion, but completely predictable if you've been following the Clippers and or James Harden for the past however many years. Um, Audio quality is going to change up a little bit because we are recording this mid-afternoon on Sunday. We're going to finish up with Rockets Warriors takeaways. That game seven is later tonight, so we'll have a reaction to that one as well. But um, audio change will come a little bit. But let's start with college basketball, and that's where home teams did not fare well. The home teams that could get it done were what? Purdue finishes out with a win at home. UCLA finishes it out with a win at home, and UNLV to start things off earlier in the weekend got the win at home. This is a continuation of something that I've talked about. I know that we saw the tweet on social media from Stephen A. Smith talking about home teams just not getting it done. This has been a I wouldn't call it a plaguing factor. Time will tell if this is just this abnormality, but home teams have just throughout the season in college basketball have simply not been good. Um, I think the winning percentage for home teams is hovering just above 50%. If you look over time, home teams typically win games at a 60 plus percent clip. Now, look, you could sit here and say, yeah, but Duke goes on the road. You, Marsh, you said that Duke is a better team than Virginia Tech, and I stand by that. You picked Georgetown to beat Villanova on the road. They're 3-0 against the Wildcats. They're not afraid of them. You picked a lot of these road teams to win. What are you talking about? Why is this? Why are you even talking about? Well, you should be taking a victory lap. First off, we don't do that. We don't take victory laps. We pick our wins. We move forward because we're going to be wrong plenty of times. But it is a continuation of what's been just a very, very interesting college basketball season in which home teams have just not had the same type of dominance that we've experienced in the past. I think we're going to see, you might hear, we could make the case for a lot of different things. A lot of fingers could be pointed, a lot of definitive statements could be made about how the heck are home teams just not getting it done. Somebody might say, well, it's because teams now have to stay, teams have to stay together, right? As SimWorld View is kind of we haven't seen a lot of transfers. I don't expect us to see any transfers. And then we've got teams that are staying together because guys are staying in the program for longer periods of time. So there's just better basketball teams up and down the college basketball landscape. So of course we're going to have better teams that are more capable and composed going on the road and getting wins. That's going to be one of your takes. Well, we've got so much talent across the board in college basketball, not only because people are sticking around, but if you look around college basketball, we've got freshmen that are dominant. We've got sophomores that are dominant. We're going to have a very interesting draft class this coming season. That's a big part of it. Maybe we could talk about, well, look, man, people just aren't afraid. They play so much basketball nowadays. They going on the road. Look, speak as a former college athlete. I liked playing on the road better than playing at home. I thought it was more fun going into opposing arenas and shutting people up than it was having to keep your fans stoked at home. I don't know that there's a real answer, and I think time is going to tell if this is a pivotal change moment in the in all of college basketball, or if this is just this is a moment, right? This is a moment that we'll remember, a moment we'll acknowledge and say, "Do you remember that year where home teams just couldn't get it done?" Because that's kind of what it feels like it's been. Um, I was not stunned by anything. I think that we're going to have a show this afternoon. By the time you're listening to this, Monday afternoon, um, that is going to dive into an announcement of everything. I think I'm very concerned for Villanova right now. Um, I am. I continue to get proven wrong with Alabama, man. And it's time to just admit, and I think I did this last week. I'm wrong on Alabama. They just do things, man. They just do things that get things done. It's a stunning team that takes care of business. They don't make sense to me. I don't. Here's this. It's not that they don't make sense to me. It's that maybe I'm undervaluing Dwan Epps and Quincy Anderson. I think that might just be the case. I think those guys who are both projected to be second round picks have been absolutely fantastic for the Crimson Tide. But back to my original point, Villanova, I'm a little concerned about them. Um, At the same time, though, I continue to be so bullish on Georgetown, right? I talked about it in one of the shorts over the weekend. Georgetown wins, and if we looked at this team and we removed the 2-6 stretch that they had in the middle of the season, Georgetown would be one of the best basketball teams in college basketball, right? They have been so consistent outside of this 8 game sample size, which is not insignificant, almost a third of the season. I understand that. But if you make them just 500 in that span, right? 4-4. I think we're talking Georgetown as a fringe number 1 seed. I think they could be a number 2 seed in hoops stereo. And the fact that they have now gone on the road and when they beat Villanova the first time, right, on the road, end of the season, they're like, well, Villanova's got nothing to play for, right? Who cares? No big deal. You went on the road, you beat a bad team, or you beat a good team, but they had no motivation to play. They had motivation. Villanova had a chance to get a number 1 seed. I think they squandered that opportunity to be a number 1 seed come hoops stereo now, which again we'll find out later that matters. And with the moment on the line, Villanova did not rise to the occasion. That makes me very concerned. This team has a lot of talent. I'm not sitting here going to tell you that they're going to be upset in the opening round. But I think it's still a very concerning moment. It's also concerning for Virginia Tech. You had a chance to beat Duke. Again, the biggest thing that I've talked about with Virginia Tech all season long is this team does not get things done, right? They play really well against great teams, but they just haven't been able to finish it. Their win that they got against Louisville, right, came down to one shot. They needed every single 40 minutes of each half. They needed every single one of those seconds to beat Louisville because they did it on a last second buzzer beater, right? So just as easily, this team could have been like, I know, same old, same old. And I think that's what came up last night. Um, they just have not been able to finish games. It's a really, really great basketball team. I think they should be able to get out. I mean, this should be a hot take I think they'll be a number 1 seed if they get out of the opening weekend. They should. They're going to play a 16 seed if they're a number 1 seed or a 15 seed, and they're going to play an 8 or a 9 seed. They should be better than all of those teams. They've proven that they're better than those types of teams. But the big question mark is going to be what happens when they play really good teams, and they continue to not answer that question for me. And that's a red flag. That's a red flag. This team's really really awesome, but their inability to beat big teams is still a major concern because likelihood, spoiler alert, breaking news alert, they're going to have to beat a good team in hoops area if they're going to make a deep run. They're not going to be able to play just a bunch of Tennessee, Missouri, Virginia, whoever, who I expect to be lower seeds. They have to beat a good team. And if they don't get that done, that's a big problem. Um, Okay, let's go pros. All right, let's talk what happened on Saturday night, and that was the Los Angeles Clippers falling apart and not showing up in the second half of their game against the Denver Nuggets. So the Denver Nuggets, who fired their head coach because the vibes were off, the Denver Nuggets, who we have once again entered the realm of. Can you believe Jamal Murray hasn't made an All Star game? It's that season, baby. It is the Jamal Murray shocking All Star snub season, right? The JMSASS season. That's got to be Jim Sass season. Um, they made it. They take down a Clippers team that everybody thought was going to win because Kawhi Leonard was awesome, and Kawhi Leonard was awesome. Kawhi Leonard was awesome. You know who wasn't awesome? Again, James Harden. And I don't know that there ever has been over the last 3 years James Harden defenders. Um, there's nothing less for this one. The last 2 seasons, he hasn't been the best player on his team, and he hasn't done it done. Um, their collapse in the second half was stunning. It shouldn't have been, but yet it still was. You saw that the train tracks had fallen off before the bridge. You saw that they were broken, and you still watched the train. He said, "There's no way. I know what's going to happen, but I just can't believe this, so I have to watch it." And they couldn't get it done. Um, Nikola Jokic is not going to be the MVP, but he should have been uh, because he is by far and away the best player in all of SWBA. This is just absolutely incredible. And if you're the Houston Rockets, excuse me, I keep saying Houston because I'm hardened to Houston. If you're the Los Angeles Clippers, and you are sitting there and you can't get it done, I don't know what the next move is. I don't know what the next move on the chessboard is for the Los Angeles Clippers because this was a better team, right? You lose Paul George, and everyone's like, how could you possibly let Paul George leave? I mean, you have no way to fill up. Guess what? They didn't need Paul George because they had Norman Powell, 30-year-old best player or most improved player. He wasn't. should have been, but most improved player in all of SWBA. The stunning Norman Powell season. You had depth. You had optionality. You had James Harden kind of actually looking like a pretty good option on this basketball team. You had Kawhi Leonard actually healthy for an entire postseason series, and still did not get it done. Ty Lue's one of the better coaches in all of SWBA. I'm not saying that Ty Lue's getting fired. I just don't know what the next options are because financially, there's still a lot of question marks. You had Ivica Zubac, who might be all SWBA. We will find out. You had a really great construction of a group, and you didn't finish the deal. I don't know what's next. I don't think. I imagine it's a rerun. I imagine that we're doing this thing over again. That we're picking up the pieces and we're saying, let's run this back. Because frankly, I don't know what option number two is. I don't know what door number two holds, except door number one is open. I mean, it might not be much, but it's relevancy in a really good conference. It's a top six seed. It's a top eight seed in a really, really good conference. Now, were either of these teams going to beat Oklahoma City? No. I think that the Thunder are probably would probably have preferred to be facing the Clippers than to face Nikola Jokic. This is going to be one of the best series in recent history because we're going to get at some point here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to find out who the MVP is, and it's going to be one of Shea and Nikola Jokic. It should be a confirmation of Shea. I don't know if that's where my vote would have gone. But it's going to be one of the best series because it's going to be this battle of this is why he's the MVP or this is why he should have been the MVP. I'm excited for that. But this is just a fork in the steak moment on the Clippers. They're cooked. I don't know how anyone could pick them ever again. We wanted to rule them out to begin this season because it was, well, what are they going to do? They got no options. There's no way this team can be competitive. And then, oh, look, by the way, they actually turned out to be pretty decent. But that doesn't even matter. And they are yet again eliminated in the first round of the series or this postseason. And Kawhi Leonard, you have to then hope for lightning to be caught in a bottle and his health be able to last at the time of the season when it matters most. We have not seen that very often, and the Los Angeles Clippers squandered one of those opportunities.
All right, part two, or part three, if you will. We just got done watching the Warriors wrap up a 103-89 win over the Houston Rockets. The Buddy Hield game, a absolutely incredible performance from Buddy Hield, because that's who everyone had on the bingo card for the group that was, or the guy that was going to change Game 7. He scores 33, ties the SWBA record in Game 7s for three-pointers, with 9 of them, including the audacious three-pointer there when things should have been wrapping up. Here are my notes. Let's dive into it. As the Warriors advance to face Minnesota, they probably are going to wish they wrapped this thing up, the series up in 5 or 6 games. I would take Minnesota to win Game 1. Let's start with that. That's our preview for Game 1 of Minnesota and Golden State. All right, back to what happened here. Let's start with the Buddy Hield game. The Warriors needed somebody else to make shots. Buddy Hield, there was some feedback after he won 0-4 in Game 6 that do you even play the guy? You have to play him because whether he goes 0-4 or he hits 9 threes like he did tonight, that's what he's capable of doing. And you need that type of floor spacer and floor geography changer next to Steph Curry, particularly when you have a front court of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. You need to have a guy that can shoot the ball. And that shifts defense to his attention. He was fantastic. He did all the stuff that Klay Thompson does, right? I mean, now, is Klay Thompson more consistent? Sure. That's why Klay Thompson is going to the Hall of Fame. Buddy Hield is not. But they got Buddy Hield for that reason. He was billed as like a very, very light version of Klay Thompson. Last night he was that. Or tonight he was that. We're recording this right in the aftermath. He was fantastic. The shot making down the stretch in this one, this was a competitive game for the first 3.5 quarters, and the Warriors really just took over in the fourth. The shot making and the shot taking and shot creation down the stretch for Golden State was just so much better than what Houston had. They got to their spots. They created well. In the first half, you could see how sharp and how crisp the Houston defense was in defending Steph Curry. They could not maintain that. They did not maintain that. And that is, Steph got free for a lot. Buddy Hield got free for a lot. Jimmy Butler got into his spots, and he was really good. They just got to the spots that they wanted to so much more efficiently than Houston did. Again, that's what we were concerned about, right? When you talk in the preview of the series, Houston making shots. Would they have somebody who could do it? Fred VanVleet was good for many parts of this, but he wasn't good enough and consistent enough. They went to time and time again, just post up Şengün, post up Şengün, post up Şengün. And I'll get to him later. Actually, we'll go to him right now. It didn't work, man. He would just post up Draymond, post up Looney. He even tried to post up Pods, and it didn't really work that well. He would just try to bully them. So he's got to find some way to be a little bit more creative with the ball in his hands, because just the constant post-ups, that's not going to be long-term a late-game offensive creation opportunity, and that showed last night, or again tonight against Golden State's front line. Small thing, I thought J.K., the Jonathan Kuminga minutes looked pretty good early on. I thought he attacked Şengün there with no issue. I thought they should have gone to that a little bit more. The problem was he didn't really have a lot of bounce. He didn't attack the rim, and that's a conversation now for the offseason for the Warriors. But he didn't look highly engaged for a group that has not highly engaged him. So I don't. There should be thoughts on that. I think they're going to need him in the Minnesota series. I thought they were going to need him more than they did in the Houston series. I think they wrap this thing up if they use him more. They survived. They got Game 7. I still think that's one that probably could have done better. Brandon Podziemski. He did a great job of getting into the paint, but there's still he lacks the vertical explosiveness that would enable him to be a real dangerous downhill threat. He looked a little afraid at times. He had Şengün once where he just kind of danced around him, did sidestep, and then he tried to throw it out, and it was intercepted by Dylan Brooks. That led to a basket. That's back when late third quarter when the Rockets were making their runs. That's really where Podziemski, he was doing a good job getting there, but he's like 80% there. He needs to find a way to be able to finish in the ways that Steph Curry does, because obviously Steph is not a vertical athlete. Then my last point, I just love Steven Adams, man. I've loved him since he was in Oklahoma City. I said during the offseason, or during the midseason, that the Lakers should have tried to get him. I think he's still a very, very impactful big man in the SWBA. He played that role very well tonight. I think he's a great 16 to 20 minute guy in the paint. I'd pay him $10 million, maybe not 10. I'd pay him $7 to $8 million a year. I love Steven Adams. I think he's a great player. You want to talk about like some of those times where it's like a niche, like deep cut kind of guy. That is my deep cut kind of guy. I would 100% try to find a way to keep Steven Adams. And that's it. Golden State advances. They get Minnesota. We'll probably do a preview of some kind when that rolls around. But a huge win for Golden State on the road in Houston. The rivalry is back, baby. The rivalry between Houston and Golden State is back, and it was fantastic.